All right, bang. Today is Tuesday. It is December 13th. Welcome to the Dog Walk presented by Barstool Sports. It's myself, Eddie, and I am joined by Chief as always. Chief, how are you today?
Doing great. Refreshed after the weekend. Feeling good. Ready to start a new week. You're saying you're a little under the weather again.
I'm all right. I'm the only one that's been healthy around here. You got hit by the big C. Carl got hit by the big C.
That's true.
Myself and White Sox Dave are the only ones that have been shielded. I was giving my immune system.
I feel like you're always kind of fighting things here and there.
Who, me?
Yeah.
I'm just fighting the lights.
Yeah,
that's it. I'm just fighting the bright lights.
You're in a battle with fight with fluorescence.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
But as far as sickness, I've been doing all right so far.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, now I'm hearing there's.
The light sickness and whatever it does to you is no joke. I don't get it here, but at home, remember when I smashed the shit out of my ceiling fan light?
Yeah.
Well, it's never quite been right since then. I haven't put the bulb fixture back on, so it just it'll turn into a strobe light out of nowhere. And I'm like, well, I got to shut this off, otherwise I'm gonna have a seizure in my living room. So you got to be careful about that. Maybe get some blue blockers for the office.
I got some. We'll figure it out. Hopefully.
Okay.
I haven't figured it out. It's been a year and a half, so at some point.
I have faith in you.
Today we are going to do another Pick Six. I think that's what we're going to try and call it here.
I like it.
Another one of those news things. If you didn't listen, we did one of these, I think 3 weeks ago.
Something like that.
Where we attack 6 different news topics. We're going to set a timer. We're going to do 5 minutes each. We're on YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe. We have a nice graphics package. It looks pretty clean. Thank you to our graphics department for sending us those. Thank you to producer Harry for making that look clean. So, we'll get that underway. But before we do, let's talk about our friends at Rhoback. Rhoback Activewear, best fit, best feel. Now it's holiday season. There isn't a better gift than Rhoback. It's no secret Rhoback will be my go-to holiday gift this season, and it should be yours too. Their newly released performance joggers are incredible, functional, versatile, and comfortable. Rhoback's performance hoodies are the most comfortable hoodies out there.
They're great. All their stuff's great. The logo's great. Feels good. Fits well. It's something that you should be definitely going to if you're doing your Christmas shopping now, kind of last minute like I am. And it's good for all ages. I'm going to get something for my brother. I'm going to get something for my dad. And you just can't beat those performance joggers. I think White Sox, I don't think he's taking them off.
No,
I don't think he's taken them off since he got them.
He has not. So nothing beats putting on a Rhoback hoodie after waking up on a cold day in the Windy City. Use code DOG on Rhoback.com for 20% off all new customers. That's spelled RHOBACK.com. That's 20% off all polos, Q-zips, hoodies, and joggers with code DOG. The best part is they'll be releasing new gear throughout the holiday season, and you're not going to want to miss out. So get your holiday shopping done early, and make sure to check them out at Rhoback.com. Honestly, can't stress enough how great their stuff is. Their hoodies, polos, Q-zips, you name it, guys. Honestly, great stuff at Rhoback. Go check them out. Great people over there, too. So make sure you're shopping Rhoback this holiday season. All right, first topic for the Pick Six. Let's start the timer, Harry. Will be about the tragic passing of American journalist Grant Wahl in Qatar over the weekend.
Yeah, so this broke, and it was one of those things where I read it, and I'm like, that can't be real. It almost felt like crazy. It was so crazy, but also kind of made sense that it was there's no way that something would happen to him of all people over there. And if you're not familiar with Grant Wahl, to me, he is the American soccer journalist.
He's Schefter, he's Rappaport, he's Woj for the NBA.
Yeah.
He's the guy.
He's the guy. I mean, he's been around. He started with Sports Illustrated, I want to say in the 90s. So he's been around a long time. And then he just kind of moved up and up and up and up. And it was basically my entire life. If I was going to read something, because forever the only team I ever cared about was the U.S. men's national team. So you would just try to figure out who's the next guy, what's going on, who's playing well, where, whatever. You would go and Google and come up with Grant Wahl because he was really kind of the only guy doing it. Because Schefter has Rappaport. It was just Wahl. And he eventually went independent. He had a Substack. He had almost, I think it was just about 900,000 followers. So he's a big deal in that space. And he's a guy who's a very principled guy. And everybody's been talking about the corruption and the human rights violations with Qatar. Nobody has been banging that drum louder than Grant Wahl. And if you look at, I don't think Fox, who has the TV coverage here in the United States, has mentioned one negative thing about Qatar the entire time. I've watched basically every game, every post-game, pre-game, halftime. Nobody is saying shit. And maybe it's just because they're over there and it's like, hey, like Fox, we signed this deal with them. Like, we need you guys to just shut the fuck up. And so Alexi Lalas, whoever's on the stage up there, is just, they have not made this a storyline the way Grant Wahl has. And Grant Wahl, he wrote an article that came out like 5 days ago, saying they just don't care. And it was continued criticism of Qatar and the Qatari, regime about their human rights violations. And, he had been kind of like actively protesting, and not just for show. It's like like I said, he's a principled guy, and he got in trouble and kicked out of a stadium for wearing a soccer shirt with a rainbow around it, which was basically in support of,
gay rights. And I didn't know this until the video came out, but his brother he said in the video, I'm a gay man. Grant Wahl, wore that shirt basically for me and in support of me, and now he's dead. And it basically was like, he started feeling like he had the flu or a cold or something. And then a couple days later, he was watching, I think it was the Argentina-Netherlands game. He leaves that game because he had like collapsed, and they take him out of there, and like poof, next thing you know, press box. Next thing you know, everything's out there. Like Grant Wahl has died. And it's one of those things that it is still an ongoing investigation. I was looking for quotes from the White House. The latest from the White House, okay, I want to get this quote exactly right, was that this came from the press secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre. I'm sure everybody knows what she looks like and who she is at this point. Grant Wahl was an inspiration to many. Our thoughts are with his wife, Dr. Celine Gounder, and to all those who loved him. State Department officials are in touch with Grant's family and with senior officials in the government of Qatar to ensure that his family gets the support they need. So I don't know what that means exactly. What is the support they need, and how is Qatar going to give it to them? Are they going to investigate this? Are they going to do a proper autopsy? Are there, who knows what's going on? Like, that really hasn't been updated as of yet. His brother is adamant that it is, there's foul play involved. The interesting thing about mentioning his wife, Dr. Celine Gounder, she works in the Biden administration. So she was a person who was, in their COVID response team, policy team. So, you would think that if they're going to stand up for somebody and hold somebody's feet to the fire, it'd be for the husband of one of their employees' wives. So, or I said that weird, but you understand what I'm saying. So, but as of right now, there has not been any resolution or really any updates on the situation. Yeah, it's one of those things where it could be obviously purely coincidental, or it could be clearly something.
It's almost like it's too bad happened to be true.
I know. It's one of those things where it's like, holy fuck.
Right.
What we thought could have happened happened.
Like, how brazen are these people?
Yeah, exactly.
See, that's where it's like, are they that stupid?
I know, right?
Where
it's like they want to change their perception. They want things that, like, that's the whole point of this. Like, they want like
sports
tourism,
watching,
and they want exactly like what they really do. But then it's like,
but maybe they would.
I know.
Maybe they would. So it's going to be a fascinating story. I hope this story never gets swept under the rug.
I know.
People need to keep banging the drum on this until there are real answers.
Yeah,
because you can't just be killing journalists.
No.
Or maybe they didn't.
Yeah, maybe they
I wonder if there are people in Qatar being like, what the fuck? Who did? Like, I wonder if they're going to murder who murdered him.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that kind of thing.
And like I said, it could be purely coincidental too.
Could be.
You don't want to make accusations, because everything's an accusation at this point. Because he did chronicle it. It is on his podcast.
Yep.
He talks about it in his last podcast he dropped. He talks about it within the first 2 minutes, how he was battling something, and he had a cough, and a lot of people have a cough, and he thought it was like a bronchitis thing. So it's super eerie to listen to, but very tragic, and may he rest in peace.
Yeah,
and,
rest in peace,
thoughts
Grant
with
Wahl.
the family and everything. Next topic here, we want to give an update on the Twitter files, which seems like there are endless updates, and we are recording this at 1 p.m. Central Time on Monday, and I'm sure by the time this airs on Tuesday, there will be a million more updates, so we're sorry.
Yeah, so I to that note, like I had my kind of notes and points I wanted to make about volumes 2 through 4, and then 5 dropped while I was coming to work.
I don't know what to say about this anymore, but I'll let you take it away.
Well, why don't we start there then? Why are you kind of...
I'm kind of out on these, I'll be honest. Like, I was very interested in ours that we did last week, but now I'm just like, it just never seems to end. And like now I don't know how to, like, they're very hard to read and they're very hard to wrap my head around. I don't know, but let's
I
take
will
it
say
away.
this. I love a good Twitter thread. Elon needs to work on the thread because like the replies to the replies, and it's like it'd be easier because they're all numbered, but it'd be a lot easier if you could just go through. It would be like you go for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then it jumps to 13. Then you have to click on 13 and go back up to 7. It got difficult to follow to even just physically read it so Elon, Twitter engineers, if you're gonna be like the thread platform, you got to make the threads a little bit better. I am the opposite of you. I am lapping this up like a dog in mud, just slurping everything up because I think it's fascinating to look at and basically have things like a lot of things confirmed that people suspected. And it was like, oh, it's conspiracy. Like we're not doing that. They're not doing that. And then you see all these internal Slacks and direct messages and emails. It's like, holy shit, it's that, and it's so much worse. And I would encourage everybody to go through and read it yourself. But I thought one of the bigger takeaways from volumes 2 through 4, at least for me, was how involved intelligence, the FBI, CIA were in policy at Twitter, recommendations, constant meetings, what's going on. So that was crazy. So I would actually say that the first one, if I'm remembering correctly, was largely about the decision to squash or repress the Hunter Biden laptop story.
Yeah.
And that one, and again, like these are things that are still being investigated, levels of corruption, Biden, Joe Biden benefiting. I don't know any of that yet, so I don't really want to comment on that. And that is a deeper story. But in terms of how that impacted the election, I don't really care. Like I don't really care what was on Hunter Biden's laptop, at least at this point. Since then, I think it's gotten more crazy. So I think that like I said, the FBI, these decisions that went into permanently banning Trump afterwards, and like you see like these, they were basically like, all right, like there is no like an admission by Twitter, there is no violation of the policy. So let's come up with a way to ban him anyways. And they were, they basically were just doing like these one-off things, and they had, and that's when everybody would say, well, you're going to ban the president of the United States, but you're going to allow, so-and-so from ISIS or Al-Qaeda to be, or Iran to be saying all these different things that are horrible. And the reason that they had always let public figures go unbanned was that they were like, well, it's in the public, the public is interested in what they have to say. And then January 6th happens, and they make that decision on January 8th to ban him permanently. And the decision was really from public pressure from the Washington Post and New York Times, kind of traditional media, and then a lot of internal employees. But what they're not really saying is that a lot of Twitter staff was not like on board with this, okay? And you said and this is number 12 from the Twitter files that came out today. But Twitter staff assigned to evaluate tweets quickly concluded that Trump had not violated Twitter policies. Quote, I think we'd have a hard time saying this is incitement, wrote one staffer. Next tweet, it's pretty clear he's saying the American patriots are the ones who voted for him and not the terrorists. In parentheses, can we call them that? We can call them that, right? From Wednesday. So another staffer, don't see the incitement angle here. So it's like, you know what? There's this, a lot of people even internally were like, we don't really agree with this. And then you had the top level executives saying, we're pushing this through. So the guy Yoel Vijaya, like all these people are the ones really dictating the policy, which I found very interesting. The other nugget here, okay, you had the CEO, Jack Dorsey of Twitter, he testified in front of Congress, and he said outright that there was no shadow banning going on. Their own documents contradict that. He got up there and said, hey, there's no shadow banning going on. Under oath, he said that. But he's not linked to any of these things that's saying shadow banning is going on. I think there's a possibility that Jack Dorsey gets charged with perjury, or at least goes under federal investigation for it, because what you can't testify under oath saying that there isn't something going on when there is. So I don't know how that's going to play out, but it's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, and I should note, like, it's not that I don't care what's going on. I'm more so like the way it's being presented. Like, I feel like I'm being led through like a maze, and I just want to, like, it's kind of like being clunkily presented.
I would agree.
Yeah, and that's where it's like, just show me what I need to know. Yeah, and it's hard to read through.
The format is tough.
Yeah, and also I feel like we knew this. And I said this to you too. When Zuckerberg, and this is a different platform, Facebook and Instagram, when he went on Rogan, he said that the FBI told them to suppress the Biden story. To suppress,
and they were saying story. It was disinformation.
Yeah.
So then
it's like we kind of knew this was happening, and I think like if you crack the books on Facebook and Instagram, it'd be crazy.
Well, now I wonder if they'll all be subject to it, because Elon is releasing this stuff voluntarily. You might have to do an investigation into these companies, see like how pervasive this was, and then for all the talk of election interference, seems like this is a lot of election interference. Yeah. So. You want to go to the next topic?
Yeah, next topic here. The Nissan CEO, an update. Listen, we've been talking about this guy for a long time. I love
this. This is 2019 is when we first did one.
And actually, I thought we have, I have April 30th, 2020 here.
Could be.
You have 2019?
I thought we did it in 2019.
Do we? Okay.
Because that's when it was happening.
Okay.
Yeah, we might have done more than one.
Okay, yeah, we did a couple actually, yeah. So, take it away.
Okay, so... this one, Carlos Ghosn. And now, in the meantime, we could do a doc review on this too. I watched it on a flight to New York maybe a couple months ago about all the details of his escape from, and this is the Nissan Renault guy who had charged with all like money laundering and fraud and tax evasion, all to the tune like Japan was going to send this guy to jail for the rest of his life. And he's just like, I can't have that. So he arranged this crazy escape story where they had these guys come in, these American former military guys, and portraying that they were playing in a band, and they brought in all like the heavy cases, and they drilled air holes in it. Story. They get Carlos going out of the hotel where he's like being held without bail, but he's like he can't leave Japan, he's under watch, so they hide him in these things, they get him on a private jet and bring him to Lebanon where he has citizenship and no extradition. It's fucking wild. It's a great documentary. And he got away scot-free, but the guys who got him out got in big fucking trouble. So they were arrested in Massachusetts like 2 years ago. I've got I'll pull up the timeline events here. So January 2020, Japan issues arrest warrants for the Taylors. Those were the father-son team who got him out, Michael and Peter. They were arrested in May 2020, and then July 2020, Japan formally requests their extradition. 2021, they had appealed to be like, hey, like don't send us to fucking Japan, and the Biden administration was like, sorry, you're going to Japan. And I got to say, the Trump administration also didn't really care to step up for them either. Like it was like nobody wanted to touch this thing. And so 2 different presidencies, they're both fucked. They get transferred to Japan in March. They're formally charged at the end of March. And then they were going through like all these legal defense things and how could we do this? How could we get out of it? And then they are eventually like, you know what? Our best course of action is to just plead guilty. So on June 14th of 2021, they pled guilty. Michael got 2 years in jail. Peter got 20 months in jail. And on October 28th, 2022, so just a few months ago, they were transferred back. And in just this past November, they were released. So they got out a little bit earlier than they were supposed to. But this, like, kind of the story here is they ran up unbelievable legal fees. Okay, so they eventually, they pled their way down and got leniency to a degree. They had, their legal bill was $4.3 billion, or 4.3 million, I should say, 4.3 million. And they're just saying, like, hey, like, we're broke, like, we don't have any money. And they're like, Japan was like, bullshit, we know you have money. So Carlos Ghosn funded like the first tranche of money that they needed to the tune of 1.3 million. But they're like, yeah, we still have about 3 million needed. And they're also saying that they were unfairly targeted. In the last 20 years, there's been 31 people extradited to Japan from the United States. They were all for murder or violent crime. So this was just like, hey, like, you guys embarrassed us, so we're gonna extradite you and send you to jail. And they're like, we didn't really do much wrong. And so now Carlos Ghosn has got the big documentary money rolling in, plus all his other money. And these guys they're free. They spent some time in jail, and like the jails, like, Japan wanted to punish these guys basically the best they could. They were solitary confinement for that entire time. Solitary confinement, small cell. They say it was like mold infested, but man, it was like they did a hard time for 18 months or whatever they served over there. And but now they're back. They're out. They're, the one guy's starting like a vitamin beverage company. The other guy is the dad. It's like kind of retired. And they're still like, so like they're still claiming they're broke, but they had like an arrangement with Ghosn. So I think it's like they might get in trouble again for like tax evasion. One of the son has moved to Dubai basically so he can get paid, is what it sounds like. So I thought that was interesting that the two guys who orchestrated like a heist of a human being to get them out, they're fine now.
Okay.
Yeah. So
that's a good update.
That's the update. And
I do have April 30th, 2020. If you want to go check that out, the original episode. There was an update of May of that year too. If you Google Podlink, the dog walk, you'll be able to find those episodes. It's a great website. I know if you go to the backlog, Apple and Spotify don't have all the old episodes. There are platforms on there that you could find those old episodes. So you'll be able to find that. But if you've been following with us for a long time, you definitely know that crazy story with smuggling the old Nissan CEO out of the country. So, and he's just living large in Lebanon now. Yes.
So I mean, he can't really travel too many places, but
yeah,
he's a billionaire living in.
And he's not in solitary confinement.
Yeah,
which is
no, he's got a nice place in
which
Lebanon.
Is pretty key.
Yeah.
Before we continue with the pick six, we do want to talk about our friends at Game Time, the exclusive ticketing partner of Barstool Sports. Give the gift of an awesome experience this holiday season with Game Time. If you're nervous that your present won't arrive in time, or simply forget to holiday shop, Game Time tickets get delivered to your phone and inbox instantly. Game Time is all the best tickets, and you'll get an awesome price on them. If you haven't given Game Time a shot yet, now's the time. We've been using it all year. Chief used Game Time as a gift for his father. He went to Notre Dame Boston College. How happy was he when you gave him the gift of Game Time?
He loved it. Yeah, so that was his birthday last month, and he and I used to go to games quite a bit. It'd been a minute because of COVID, and so just going down there, like, it's a memory. Like, the Game Time is helping you create memories and experiences, and you have to go to that Game Time app because it is the best. And I went to the Blackhawks game on Friday. I had tickets through a friend, but I met up with a couple buddies afterwards who used Game Time. They got in for like legitimately 60% off through Game Time.
Beautiful.
True story, swear to God. Ask Travis. Travis is my buddy. He got it with like an incredible deal. So best place for last minute tickets, great deals. You have to be using Game Time. It is the absolute best.
There you go. Just make sure you download the Game Time app, go to the account tab to create a login, and redeem code DOGWALK for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Download Game Time, last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Okay, the next topic here. Obviously, this one was probably the biggest story last week. Brittney Griner has been released from Russian prison, and she's back in the U.S.
Yeah, so I should say I'm very happy that she's back and released.
1,000%.
And I feel like that is kind of getting lost in the controversy, is that it was absolute bullshit. And I don't care how you feel about Griner or certain comments she made before. That woman should not have been locked up abroad in a Russian jail cell for weed. Like, that's insane. And that was, again, her detainment and sentencing was 1,000% politically motivated, and Putin used her as a big chip and got what he want, which was the Merchant of Death. The Merchant of Death released. His name is Victor Bout. So this is a guy who, has a long history with the Soviet Union military, and then obviously a military on his own, but he was a weapons manufacturer and a former Soviet military translator. And, so he set up all these companies. And if you look at places that are war torn over the last, since the 90s, okay, Eastern Europe, all the civil wars in Africa, all the, the Middle East shit, there's evidence that he was selling weapons getting weapons to the Taliban and Al Qaeda and all these different people. So the reason that he was arrested originally was because like the UK and the United States were like, you are directly responsible for the deaths of our soldiers and other Americans abroad. So he was arrested in a sting operation back in 2008, and this is like a genuinely bad guy. You ever seen the movie War Dogs?
Yes, I have.
Okay, very good movie.
Yeah,
Jonah Hill, the other
great
guy that people love. What's his name? Fuck.
Yeah,
Miles
it's
Teller.
Miles Teller.
Miles
yeah.
Teller. Thank you. Very good movie. And Ana de Armas. I feel like that was the first time I ever heard her name before. She's the Miles Teller girlfriend in that. But so he was convicted, and they have the Bradley Cooper character in that movie, like reminds me kind of this guy. And he's just a guy who's just slinging arms and munitions all over these war-torn areas, and with basically impunity forever. Like, if you're the guy who it's like, if you give the guy the gun, who then he goes and shoots somebody, like you're kind of responsible for that. And so he eventually got arrested, and like this is a guy who is a bad guy responsible for deaths of Americans, and we traded a WNBA player for. Like that's a tough look. I mean, like Brittney Griner, again, she had to be released. This is not like a 1-for-1 trade. This is like Griner better get like 17 gold medals and average 40 and 20 over the next 10 years, because it's just not you can't trade a basketball player for a war criminal, and that's basically what this guy is, and that's what we did. And you could say, and then there's been a lot made of. Portnoy had a great rant about it. Whitney had a funny tweet about it. But you have to be able to remove, the PR factor, because it's like, hey, like we know this is fucked up, but if this is the trade, I'm sorry, like. At some level, Brittney, like you got to know the law, and I know you made a mistake, and you do not deserve to be jailed. We can't trade a war criminal for a basketball player, and that's what we did. And it's like we do have a Marine who's in Russian prison right now. He's been over there for 20 years, and and Putin allegedly asked Trump to release this guy Victor Bout in exchange for the Marine. At some point during the Trump administration, Trump said no. At least that's what Trump says. Who knows if it's actually true? But this is like a tough spot. And it's just like I just feel like it's a bad look for us on multiple levels, that there weren't any other levers for us to pull to get a United States citizen out of life in prison for a vape cartridge.
What's the precedent's kind of scary, right?
Totally.
Because now it's like, anyone who does something in a country of that nature, well, it's,
Yeah. Exactly. So if you have somebody in Guantanamo, hey, well, this is it. So that's a very good point too. It's like we will be willing to get fleeced if there's enough social media pressure.
Yeah.
And that's you're right. It's a bad precedent,
Yeah.
but
it's tough though. Like I don't want her to sit over there either.
Right.
Like, that sucks.
Yeah.
That sucks.
I mean,
I'm glad she's out.
Me too.
Like, man.
But steep price.
Very tough.
Yeah.
Very tough. All right. Next topic here. China seems to have loosened the grip on their COVID restrictions.
Yeah, so they're probably the only country in the world, at least that I know of, that had still been pursuing COVID zero policies. And it got to the point where the people of China just said, hey, we've had enough. And they had widespread protests like I have never seen in China, at least not that I've been aware of. And in every city, Shanghai, Beijing, Wuhan, all these places, people taking to the streets saying, fuck this, like enough. And it was also, this is where it kind of gets like murky, because Xi got up in front of, like, they do like the CCP, like kind of State of the Union conference, like once every 5 years. And he got up there, maybe a month ago, maybe 2 months ago, said, hey, we're not changing shit. Like, this is what we're doing. Everybody's locked down. And then it looks like there was a combination of factors. Certainly the protests were part of the picture here, but also there were big time economics problems going on in China. And it was like, man, like, do we want to continue to bang this drum of COVID zero? For what reason, I don't exactly know. Or do we want to like loosen things up and save the economy? And they decided to loosen things up, save the economy, maybe save their own power. And we've talked about this before, but the number is something like 400 million people in the last 40 years have been, and again, we've said this before, that numbers might not exactly be true, but directionally correct, have been lifted out of abject poverty in China. So like this administration has a lot of credibility, but they had kind of used up all their political capital on this issue, and it's been impacting the economy. They have other economic issues, and they finally they're still quote unquote pursuing COVID zero, but they're changing some of the scope of it. So they used to have a thing like if you travel, you automatically have to quarantine for 10 days, and 7 of those days have to be in either a hotel or a government-sanctioned building. They've reduced that to 5, and it's all in-home. So like that's better. They used to have like crazy contact tracing. So hey, they have all like the cameras everywhere. So they found, hey, someone tested positive in your building, your whole fucking building's locked down. You can't go anywhere. We'll bring you the food via drone or whatever. And so that's kind of been lessened, and instantly has had a positive, we'll say, economic global impact on the news of that, even before the implication. And because like factories have been shut down, all these different things have been shut down, on the news of these COVID zero policies being lifted, the stock market in Hong Kong, which trades a lot of most of their activities tied directly to what goes on in China, 8% up. And you're seeing some of that reflected in other global markets, basically like, hey, China's opening back up. That's going to be a good thing. The only thing it's probably bad for, as we talked about, is energy consumption. Because now if they're going to be loosening things up and turning factories back on, then that's just another market where they will be using energy again this winter, which will shoot prices up in the UK and Europe and everywhere else, because now you have somewhat return to normalcy for Chinese energy consumption, which is significant.
Yeah. So. What's the videos coming out were insane.
Yeah.
The food delivery was insane. I remember you had to get a food order, you had to put it in like 2 weeks in advance or something like that. Donnie did a great blog of someone who was sending him videos, and it was just crazy.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to hear that some sense of normalcy is coming back. So
yeah, we'll see. We'll see. It's hard to know exactly what's true and what's false coming out of China, but it's this is the thing where it's like people hate Americans, but do they hate you and I? We're just guys. They probably have reason not to like the government. And I think that kind of goes every which way. And it's like, I want what's, best for the people on the ground in China. And I hope that they're able to like leave their homes if they want to get a snack, because that's the level of lockdowns of what they've been having.
Yeah, we should also do at some point a Three Gorges Dam update. That was
to my knowledge, it hasn't busted.
Yeah. Well, we would know if it did. So.
We would.
That was a fascinating one, as well as the Road Belt Initiative. We've done some fascinating China talk on the show, that's for sure. Okay, last topic of discussion here for the six pack is South Carolina update. This is also an update to a topic that we covered. This episode was last year, September 17th, 2021. South Carolina, the Murdaugh family. South Carolina attorney Alex Murdaugh. Prosecutors are alleging, if you remember here, this was the powerful attorney.
Like old money. Old money, dug in, politically, had a lot of influence.
Century of power.
Yes. And they never like sought higher office because they're like, we got it good just right here.
Yes, exactly.
You know what they sound like to me? Because I just watched It's a Wonderful Life. They sound like fucking Potter.
The Potter, yeah.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like, yeah.
So prosecutors are alleging, so if you remember, he is under trial right now for killing his wife and his son. Mm-hmm. And this is after his son killed someone in a boat accident after they were drinking. And it was obviously a horrible tragedy. And now they're saying it was to cover up, or it's being alleged that it was to cover up some dirty financial deeds, which best way to cover up financial problems is with murder.
Just kill your wife and son.
What a crazy fucking move that is.
So the quote was, I think when this case started, a lot of people assumed this was a murder case, then with some white collar crime running in there. Waters said, and Waters is, I believe he's one of the prosecutors. But the reality is, as we've done this extensive investigation, we've realized that this was a white-collar case that culminated with 2 murders. So how insane and paranoid do you have to be to go to have these like financial corruption crimes, white-collar crimes, coming back to bite you, and you're like, Jesus, I'm going to kill my wife. Like that, and that's basically like his... You want to talk about a guy who had I would plead insanity at this point if I were him, I think.
Yeah, I mean, this.
Can you do that? I don't know what the laws are, but I feel like if you go so insane worrying about something that you act this way, that you can say that you're insane.
Well, the crazy part is like you can't say wholeheartedly that he's going to
be convicted.
Yeah, right? Like when you have that much power, like you see time and time again, these people get off.
Yeah, I wonder if... I feel like when it gets to this point, you don't get off.
And since he's so regionalized, and this is such like a national
right.
thing.
I feel like it's one of those things where it's like, hey, I killed my wife, but the sheriff has to like intentionally bungle the evidence or help. Like it never gets to the point where he's charged. Yeah, that's what I would think in terms of what you're talking about. But we'll see.
I don't know though. It's a crazy case. If you've been following this, you know exactly what we talk about. I would highly suggest going back, listening to that episode from September of last year.
I mean, they're saying that prosecutors have filed more than 80 financial related charges against him. Yeah. So, and then saying that, he had all these different victims. He stole about $8.5 million from a dozen victims. So all these different things that he was trying to make go away, maybe just ran out of money. But it is, I feel like it's another thing. We're at the tip of the iceberg of this story. As wild and as much as we know, I feel like we're just finding out.
But that's quite the leap, dude, to kill your fucking wife and your son.
He probably hated that wife. He probably hated her anyways, you know?
And also, all alleged, I should say. All alleged, I should say. I don't want some fucking South Carolina man suing us, suing this show, suing this company. I already have people charging the office. Yesterday.
Charging the office, shitting on our door.
Yes, exactly.
It's wild times here in Barstool.
Yeah, exactly. We don't need more enemies. But it's crazy. It's crazy. But like I said, I never know who's. I mean, fucking Cosby's out of jail. You know what I mean? You don't know.
It's a good point. This is one of those things where I wish I understood the law.
Yeah.
I don't understand jack shit about the law. Exactly. And then I was, same thing. Like, we had Bitcoin Marty on to talk about SBF, and I listened to he had Spaces this morning with Unusual Whales, and they're saying all these things, and I'm like, man, like this is really interesting, but I only understand or know about like 20% of it. So it's like I'm gonna have to do like years of research just to learn what they're talking about and understand to figure out what exactly he's doing wrong. I know, but like not to the depths that I would want to be able to like speak about it intelligently.
Totally. But yeah, we just wanted to update you on that because I know that was definitely a case of 2021 that took over took over the media in the U.S. So
Yeah.
I think that's today's pick 6, and we'll be back next Tuesday. I think that'll be the last show of the year. We will have a show the following Tuesday, but it'll be a best of. But that was the pick 6. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully you guys are enjoying this format. It'll rotate. It'll come and go as the news topics come. And that's it. Thanks everybody for listening. Thanks for watching. We will catch you guys tomorrow. See you then.